Welcome to the Battlefield Show. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I'm joined by Sammy Boy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. It's going to be a very exciting one today. We've got some well-timed news finally. We usually have to completely change our whole life to try and suit the Battlefield news, but we finally got some that actually lined up with our schedule.
Finally, we have some news that dropped when we recorded versus afterwards.
I'm surprised it didn't
Thanks,
drop
Dice.
like literally as we finished the recording. That's when they dropped the trailer.
That would be our
generally
luck,
tends to go-
right?
Yeah.
But with that, we are going to be talking about Hazard Zone today, all the details that they shared about this mode, our thoughts, and much more. So let's hop in and talk about this. Battlefield 2042 Hazard Zone. It is a mode coming to Battlefield 2042. It's going to be at launch, and it is not free to play, but I want to save that for a discussion later on in this episode. But first off, let's talk about that trailer. Dude.
It was absolute fire. I loved it. It was just that typical DICE trailer that the music and all of that, it just blended together so well. So yeah, it's almost, because their trailers are generally so good, it's almost just like what you expect. So it's nothing like groundbreaking, because that's just what they do really, really well. So it was yeah, it was a very, very entertaining trailer. I loved it.
Yeah, I think they did. We were just talking about this right before we recorded, and then we're like, wait a second, we should save this for the podcast. But I said that the trailer struck a really good balance for me in terms of cinematic and setting the stage and then showing some of the gameplay. I still think it would have been nice to have a little bit more gameplay, because they have been very, very stingy with the gameplay that they've shown throughout Battlefield 2042, but I think it's fine. I think they did it's glad that they did do gameplay, because I think that's something that a lot of game companies don't really tend to go heavy on, but I'm glad to see that they at least included it, and it gave us a good mix. As a trailer, I think they did a fantastic job. I think it was a great announcement. It got a bunch of people really hyped.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they definitely could have like not put any gameplay in there, and it really wouldn't have been like, it wasn't like a necessity. So I'm definitely glad they put it in there, because they could have just done that whole cinematic thing and it would have still shown us what it was. So the fact that they put it in there was, yeah, very nice to see, because it just makes it feel a bit more, I kind of think you can gather a bit more information from the gameplay rather than, you know, that sort of intro sequence where they're on Manifest. Like, it was really cool, but you don't really gather that much from that. So yeah, they could have easily just done all cinematic, like the reveal trailer, for example. But yeah, I'm definitely glad they put that in there, because it just means there's more for us to break down, really.
Exactly. And break it down we shall. So starting off, do you want to give us the details on what the heck Hazard Zone is? I mean, we've had so many reports, we've had so many kind of leaks, ideas that people have had around it, but what is Hazard Zone?
There is a lot of information. To do like a brief summary, I guess I would say that it's the type of game where you and a squad. I think there's 4-man squads confirmed.
Yep.
You go into the match and you choose like your specialists and your weapons and stuff like that. You choose where you want to spawn into the map, and then once the game actually starts, your goal is to essentially hunt down and find these data drives that are in the fallen satellites. And then essentially it's just going to be you and all the other squads in the game, as well as there are some AI soldiers as well. You're really just fighting over trying to gather as many of those data drives as you can, and then there are 2 different extraction points throughout the game, so you can go early, and you can, if you do really well early on, you can just say, all right, let's just get out of here and, you know, count our lucky stars and just get out. Or you can hang around to the end, which is obviously a bit more dangerous, because if you don't make it out, then you kind of lose everything that you got. So there's 2 extraction points, and essentially the entire goal of the game is to get in, get the data drives, and get out. If you die, or if your whole team dies, I should say, the game's over. If you don't extract, the game's over. So it's going to be a very, very intense game. It's essentially do or die, really. If you don't do, there's essentially one goal, and if you don't do that, you start again. So yeah, it's going to be very, very intense, I think.
It's going to be great. Yeah, we have confirmation in terms of the squad sizes. It's going to be 32 players on next gen and PC, and then on current gen? Is that the phrase we're using now? Last gen? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really know because like I guess current gen is next gen, isn't it? Like I always refer to it as next gen, but it is actually current gen. So
Xbox One and PS4 really are going to be 24 players total. So and so there's so many questions I have around this. First off, I don't know if they've said this anywhere or if I just missed it, but what is it going to be round based, or is it a mode, and then as soon as you extract, you can also get another one, and that's how they're tying in the streak? Is that how it works, or is it like phases?
So I believe it's just the same kind of thing as like a battle royale, where like you just play that game and you either win or lose. Obviously, in this game, I think technically more than one team can win, because if everyone gets out, I guess you all win in a way. But then the whole streak bonus is I think that like if you get out, for example, then that counts as a one streak. Like you've gotten out once. Then if you play another game and you get out again, then that's when the streak starts, and you know the amount of times you get out in a row. I think that's what that streak bonus type of stuff is. I'm not really too sure how that really works, because it is kind of vague, but I think that's how that works anyway.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure, because they had a little bit of a question mark there. Another thing that so I did a stream reacting to this and kind of breaking down all the details that we had from all the different sites and all the different postings and people on Twitter. And something that was interesting is they had these occupying forces, but they didn't explain exactly what that was. But to my knowledge, those are going to be AI bots that will be on the map that are targeting everybody instead of just being on a specific side.
Yeah, so the way, like, tying it in with the story, the way that they've explained it is that obviously we kind of know the story of 2042, and with all the like blackouts and stuff, all the satellites were going down, so they had these new types of satellites, but they're bringing these down. You know, they're kind of like, it's like a, I guess, strategic warfare. Like they're just bringing down the satellites to get the intel from it. So the occupying forces are essentially like people from wherever that's landed. They're people from that area, from either the Russian side or the US side, depending on the story, who are essentially there like trying to defend that from all of the no-pats who are going in to try and, I guess, take that intel and use it for their own good. So the occupying forces are essentially just there to make life a little bit harder for us as players, just to kind of defend it and patrol it, and I guess add a bit more to the like depth of the game, because there is only 32 or 24 players, which I think is decent for pacing, but if there was only that amount of players, like there wouldn't be much going on. So I think they kind of had to put them in there, and I think if they had like a 100-player mode like this, I don't know if that would really work for the pacing, because other games like this, for example, Escape from Tarkov and Hunt Showdown, like they only have 8 to 12 players. So
yeah,
I think they just had to put them in there, and hopefully they're not, like, I really hope that they're kind of a bit smarter than the bots in All Out Warfare, because they were absolutely dumb. But I hope that they, even if they're like the same, you know, they're not the smartest AI, I hope that they're just a little bit like harder to kill. Maybe they have a bit more health or something, so that it actually makes it a bit difficult, because they were so easy to kill. So I hope that they're a little bit like, you actually go, oh, there's a bunch of bots over there, we've got to be careful, rather than, oh, sick, there's bots, let's kill them all, because they're so easy to kill.
Yeah, that's my biggest concern. I was hoping that they wouldn't have bots in Hazard Zone and that they would make the map smaller. I believe, again, I'm not 100% sure, but there is, in terms of leaks and data mines, that there are multiple sizes. There's 2 sizes for these Hazard Zone maps. One's for last gen and one's for this next gen. But we haven't really had clarification on how large those maps are. So I think that's the biggest reason for the bots being added, is they need extra body count on those maps. Otherwise, it is a lot of doing nothing, and it ends up being a lot of running around waiting for stuff to happen. And it's giving you something to do while you're either going towards those data drives or fighting them off from other people.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's like, it's trying to go for a different sort of play style to a battle royale, which, you know, they don't have bots in those games because they're meant to be that really slow paced, like tactical game. This is obviously tactical too, but I think they're maybe just trying to add a little bit more pace to it, just so that it's not, you know, a battle royale with 30 players, because that's just going to be, that'd be so slow.
It would be.
I think they're just really doing it for the pacing, and yeah, I hope they just find a good middle ground of making them, like, you know, that they're not just the dumbest AI like they were in multiplayer.
Yeah,
but
they were very
you also
bad.
don't want them to be too strong as well, so it's going to be a very interesting, you know, thing to see whether they can actually balance that well. But as long as they're there, and, you know, instead of them being in squads of 4 patrolling, maybe they have squads of 8 patrolling areas, and there's just more, so that it's a bit harder or something. But yeah, I'm sure they'll hopefully listen to feedback if the bots are too annoying or if they're too easy. Hopefully they'll tune that a little bit.
Definitely. I think that was probably my biggest kind of question mark of why they did it, but then more thinking about it, it was like, okay, yeah, they do need the bots, but hopefully they're better than they were in the beta. Because in the beta, they were just garbage. Like, what? Like, you could clearly tell when there was a bot on the map who was AI. I thankfully didn't experience them too much, but when I did, I got freaking 12 kill streaks.
Yeah.
And that's not a joke.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, early on in the beta, I had a lot, like half my lobbies were bots, and it was really annoying. By the end, they were so populated that I actually don't think I saw a bot for the last like 2 days, but early on I was like, oh man, I'm getting these big multi-kills, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going awesome, and then I'm like, oh, they're all bots. Like, that just feels like I didn't really do anything worthwhile there.
Nobody tell anybody, but I got a 12 kill streak. Were they against bots? I said I got a 12 kill streak. I didn't say anything other than that. But yeah, I think it's very interesting to see what they're going to be like and what changes they make. Because right now, so I think Battlefront 2 had a really good bot showcase. I mean, obviously they were clearly not humans, but I think they did a really good job of being more human-like. But it doesn't seem like they carried over that technology over to Battlefield 2042 so far. Again, that was a beta. Maybe it was put together and they're like, okay, we don't necessarily have the full bots done, so let's just put these guys in there. Yeah, they're going to be easy, but we know that they'll be better in the full release. So maybe that's the case.
Yeah.
But hopefully they are better.
Yeah, that's a good point, because yeah, we've seen it in, you know, their little cousin in Battlefront 2. Like, they've done they were really decent bots, considering, especially considering what they were at launch. Like, they were terrible.
Yeah.
And by the end, like you said, you knew when it was a bot and when it was a player, because they move in different ways and stuff like that. But they even got them to the point where they were like shooting at you and they would strafe and make themselves hard to hit and stuff. Like, they're actually pretty smart bots. So at least we know the technology's there, that hopefully they can. And, you know, there's a lot of people from Battlefront 2 that are working on 2042. So hopefully, like you said, maybe it was just an early build of the bots or something. I'm not too sure, but at least we know that technology's there, that bots can actually be decent if they put the work in. So hopefully, if they're not like that at launch, hopefully they, you know, can do that eventually. But yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
The next thing I want to talk about is the specialists. So we've got their playbook, and they've also got ours in terms of our release schedule. But we kind of suggested this a few episodes ago about the specialist system and how it could be cool if you were limited on what specialists you can have per squad. Well, that's going to be the case in Hazard Zone. You're going to have a limited selection, not in terms of what ones you can pick, but in terms of how many of a set specialists you can have on a squad. So let's just say you want to play McKay and your other friends want to play McKay. Well, you're going to have to duke it out. You're going to have to decide. Again, I don't know how they're going to do this, if it's like just first come, first serve, or if it's going to be turn-based like in Apex, but you can only have one specialist per squad.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting to see how they actually. I hadn't thought about that until just then, like how they're going to make it fair to who gets it. Because yeah, maybe the person with the fastest internet just gets to pick who they want or whatever. So
sorry, Sammy.
I kind of hope. Yeah, I'm kind of screwed there, aren't I? I do hope that they actually go down the Apex route and they just have a random order at the start, and it just gives you 5 seconds to pick your specialist. That'd be a cool way to do it, I think. But yeah, I'm really happy with the way that they've done that. I think it's kind of weird. Like, we've both had our issues with the specialist system in multiplayer, but in this, I love the specialist in Hazard Zone. I think it's going to be it's got that like Apex feeling to it, where it actually matters who you choose, and you're going to have to go with your squad. Like, okay, who do we want to pick? Who are you going to go? Oh, if you pick him, I'll go this guy instead. And I think that adds a lot more strategy to it. So weirdly enough, even though I'm really not a fan of the specialists in multiplayer, I really like it in this. So yeah, I'm very happy that they made it that you can't just have 4 McKays, flying around with grapple hooks and stuff. I think it's really good for the balancing, and yeah, I think it'll just add to the overall strategy, really.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really good system. Again, we've both had our gripes with the specialist system, and I know we said we're going to talk about them this episode, but we'll see in terms of after our discussion with Hazard Zone. It'll probably be the episode after this one that we really detail.
I don't think we knew Hazard Zone was going to be here this week, so we'll have to save it.
Yeah, we'll have to save it because we do have thoughts, but in terms of the Hazard Zone side of things, I think they made the good decision to limit how many you could have on each time, because you said it right there. It makes it more valuable in terms of who you pick and the layout that you do. Maybe making a McKay, Sundance, and whoever, like, maybe it's a mobility-based squad isn't going to be great in terms of the defensive part, but it's going to get you there faster. So you have to make those changes of, like, do you want to go defensive in terms of your playoff, or do you want to get there, get it all the data drives, and get out as quick as you can?
Yeah, and I love that too. Like, that's going to be so much fun. Like, let's just say us two and some of the other boys squad up and we go with like a defensive playstyle and it's just not working. We go, all right, screw it. Let's just go McKay, Sundance, these guys, and just get in there, get it, and get out. And so it also kind of just adds to that replayability of, like, you're going to have your main characters that you generally like to run, but if things aren't working out, the next game you just go, all right, let's just change it up. Like, this isn't working for us. Let's try and do this character and that character instead. And so I think I just think it, at least now, because I said this about the specialist system for multiplayer too early, like, I thought it was going to be great, and then I didn't like it, so maybe I won't end up liking it, but on paper it seems like it's a really, really good fit for this mode, at least, until we play we won't know, but on paper I think it suits it really well.
I agree. I think it's one of those things that, again, we're going to have to wait until we see how it works, but I think in terms of what it looks like on paper, it's going to be very good. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. So we've always had these leaks and rumors around Hazard Zone being this free-to-play game and kind of like a Warzone experience, or, I mean, Halo, like, they're taking the lead on really doubling down on this free-to-play aspect of their game. I think they have made the biggest jump, because the majority of people are not going to buy the full Halo Infinite game just for the campaign. I mean, there's going to be a large portion for sure, because that's a big part of the Halo game, but multiplayer is like the long-term play. So they're making a big bet. But Battlefield is not making that bet, because this is going to be a mode in Battlefield 2042 and not a specific offshoot where you download the whole game like Warzone, and then you also have locked behind paywall. You have Portal, and you have All Out Warfare, and then you have what you can play, which is Hazard Zone. They're not making that decision. They are saying, no, this is going to be part of the game. What are your thoughts on this?
I very much dislike their decision. I don't think it's the end of the world. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter and stuff that are just going on about, like, oh, this mode's going to be dead in 6 months and stuff like that. I don't think it's that dire, because Escape from Tarkov and Hunt Showdown, they're both paid games, so they're doing very well. I don't think it needs that, but on the other side of that, it's like...
Yeah, but Escape from Tarkov and all of these other games, they're just that, which is, I think, is where the struggle lies.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're buying that game knowing exactly what that is, and if you're going to buy that, you know, like I'm sure you've done your research on it. Whereas, for example, like if Warzone wasn't free, do you think you would have played it? Because I know you played it.
Never.
Yeah, exactly. Same for me. That is literally all I played from essentially March of last year until early this year. I can absolutely assure you, if I had to buy Call of Duty to access it, I would never have played Warzone to this very day. Because it was just, Call of Duty was in that like kind of down situation where it had so many bad releases in a row, and it had that like stigma around it that I had kind of given up on Call of Duty.
Oh yeah, exactly. Was it Blackout? Was that the mode that they had previously where they tried it?
Yeah.
See, I never played that, and that's like a clear example of I did not play that game because it was locked behind a paywall. It was the point of it being free was the reason that I played it, and then ultimately the reason that I bought a Call of Duty game for the first time in my entire life.
That's the thing, is that like I had like I've said on the podcast, I've been a Call of Duty fan since I was probably, I think, like 11 or something, or probably even earlier than that, to be honest. I gave up on Call of Duty at one point because it was just the same thing every year, and I wasn't enjoying them, so I stopped buying them. I probably had like a 2 to 3 year break, and then even when Modern Warfare came out, I was like, oh, like it looks better than the other ones, but I'm not sure. Like there's that stigma around it that I don't want to buy the game, and then it turns out to be shit. Warzone comes out, and the fact that it's free was like, okay, let me give this a try and see what it's like. I then bought Modern Warfare, and I bought Call of Duty Cold War, and I wouldn't have bought either of those. So they've made their $120 off me, plus however many hundreds on Warzone, that they wouldn't have made if it wasn't free. And the same can be said for Apex. If that game was paid, I can assure you, look at Titanfall. That is literally the same franchise.
Yeah.
Those games failed. Apex is free, and now it's grossed $2 billion.
Yeah.
So how they don't see that? It's in their own backyard. Apex is the same publisher.
And they're taking so much inspiration from Apex, which is the crazy part.
Exactly.
Specialists, the gameplay feel, obviously they want to say it's their own thing, but they're using it to kind of compete with Call of Duty and get that mobility back. But Apex, it's clear, especially like to a whole new level, because Apex Arenas and this game, in terms of Hazard Zone, they're very similar.
Yeah, it actually baffles me that it's not free, and I want to make it clear. I'm not like complaining personally, because I've already bought the game. I'm playing Hazard Zone day one. It doesn't matter to me personally, but to the casual player who, you know, Battlefield 5 didn't go well, and maybe they didn't like Battlefield 1 because it wasn't like a modern shooter. So the last game that a lot of these more casual players might have liked from Battlefield was Battlefield 4 in 2013. We are now nearly in 2022. They are going to have this thing of like, oh, like it looks fun, but do I want to buy this game? I don't know what Battlefield is anymore because I haven't played in 10 years. And because it's behind a paywall, there's a very good chance a lot of those people aren't going to do that.
Yeah.
And so my thoughts on it is that I don't think it hurts the game in terms of it's going to kill the mode. I think it just prevents the game from reaching the potential that it actually has. That's my issue with it. It's actually not hurting the game. It's just stopping it from being where it should be. So I am genuinely confused. I do not understand how they haven't gone, look at Apex, look at Warzone. We need to do that. And not only that, but they've done this with Firestorm, and it failed.
Yep. They already tried this
once. Like, but let's do it again. Like, it'll work this time. Yeah. Like, it's so confusing to me. But
so, like
I said, I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I don't think it's like going to kill the mode. But in my opinion, it's a very, very dumb decision.
This is a game mode that would have been incredible to be locked under a paywall if this came out after Battlefield 4, like right after. But DICE has lost so much trust from the community around their games that this is not a good move in terms of the broad scope. Like, obviously, like you said, all of the Battlefield fans, we're going to be playing this game no matter what. We've already got our pre-orders locked in. We will probably buy it on multiple platforms. That's just a given. But the amount of people that could be playing a Battlefield game, could be filling the lobby so there aren't AI in the matches, the amount of people that could be moving the game modes forward and moving this game longer in its lifespan would be so much greater if this mode was free. And again, I've seen so many times people be like, but like, now it's not free, like there won't be any cheaters. And it's like, no, that's not how it works.
That is what an anti-cheat is for.
Yes.
That is the literal point of an anti-cheat. And I get, that is the only, literally, that is the only argument against this that I've heard that has any merit to it, but that is what an anti-cheat's for. So I get what those people are saying. It does stop, like, if there's a hacker and they get banned and then they have to buy the game again, that's obviously going to be...
It's going to be
a big deterring factor.
A deterrent, but it will not stop hackers from happening.
Yeah. And if your anti-cheat isn't good enough to stop hackers, then free or not, that doesn't matter. You shouldn't rely on a paywall to stop hackers. That's the point. So that's the only argument that I've heard that has any like merit to it, where I'm like, yeah, okay, that's a fair point that you're making, but it still isn't. That's just not a good argument to me. Like, there is only positives to it being free. It doesn't hurt the game in any way. I've heard people saying like, oh, but then they have to focus on skins and all that stuff. They've already got skins. They've already got a battle pass system. They don't have to change their monetization in any way.
It would be better for them to do that too, because the game, obviously, it's a set price. You begin $10 more on next gen and all that fun stuff. But like, it's a set price. The more money they bring in and the more skins they make, the more money they bring in, and the more support that this game will get because more money is getting brought in.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, the more money the game makes, the more that even the people who don't like Hazard Zone and they don't want it to be free to play, that still benefits them because they're going to get more content in the base game. So, yeah, there's not an argument that I've seen so far that like makes any sense other than that cheater one, which, it's just, it makes sense initially, and then you go, well, actually, no, that's
but like,
the anti-cheat is for that. But yeah, it's just, I just think that not only are DICE this way, but I think a lot of the Battlefield community are just a little bit stuck in the past, and they're very like stubborn about moving forward.
This is a 2007 move.
Yeah, it literally is. This is not how AAA shooters do it anymore. Look at Halo, like you said, that is literally free. The whole multiplayer is free. Warzone's free, Apex is free, Fortnite's free. Name all the biggest games in the last 5 years. They're all the ones I just listed. They're all free. So, and it's not like they don't make money. They're literally the highest earning games.
Yeah,
so,
they wouldn't keep supporting those games if they weren't making money.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. Like I said, I'm not going to like have a big cry about it. And
all right, I'm
be like,
canceling my pre-order.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's still going to be fun, and I don't think it will die because if it's a good mode, it'll live. If it's not, then it will die. But that's not to do with it being free or not.
Yeah. But
I just think, like I said, I think it's like putting a cap on the game when they should open up the cap and let it reach its potential.
Yeah.
Because this game has the potential, or this mode has the potential that like all of those Warzone guys who are like, this game's getting a bit old, I'm kind of sick of it, they would go, oh, damn, there's a new Battlefield game that's similar to this and it's free. I'm going to get it. And then at that point, just like you and me, they get the game for free. They go, oh, now I want to grind, like, this is really fun, I want to grind all my guns, I'm going to buy 2042. And then they've bought the game, and it's essentially not free to play at that point because they've bought the game.
Or even if they don't buy the game, they're more likely to buy skins or like cosmetics.
Yeah, it's just it actually baffles me. I am just very confused. I'm not necessarily like that disappointed because, like I said,
but like,
I'll be playing it. I don't really care. It doesn't affect me, but it's more just like from a business standpoint, I'm just confused. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah. What are you doing? This is a dumb decision.
Definitely. But like, it also makes sense from the company that implemented crossplay so late into the development cycle.
Yeah, true.
It's like, okay, yeah, you guys were still making a Battlefield 5.1. Yeah, and like they're in the mode where they're making the same mistakes that they did with the previous games, and then they're gonna get to the point where they make Battlefield 2057, and they're gonna be like, okay, guys, man, Battlefield 2042 just it didn't perform as well as we wanted it to, and I think it's because of the marketing. What? Yeah, so we'll see.
That's the part that baffles me the most, is that they have made this mistake before. Mm-hmm. This isn't their first time. If they hadn't have done Firestorm, I'd be like, okay, like whatever.
Well, yeah, we'll see how this goes. But no, Firestorm was literally a mode that they tried to hop onto a bandwagon, which they're doing with this as well. Like, this is a bandwagon of bandwagons. They're trying to get the Hunt Showdown. They're trying to get Escape from Tarkov. They're like getting these modes, and they're taking these parts from all of these different things, but they're losing the core value that those games have that people go back to them for. Like, there is a reason to buy Hunt Showdown. There is a reason to buy Escape from Tarkov and pay that for one mode. But I think that it's coming to the point where they're trying to do too much. And also people are seeing Battlefield 2042 as not having a whole lot of content. And I don't think the way forward is to implement a mode that's going to separate the player base even further. Because a lot of people are like, I'm definitely going to be playing this game mode a ton versus All Out Warfare.
Yeah, exactly. Like that. Yeah, and that's the thing. If you're going to split the player base, then the best way to like, I guess, reimburse the player base and bring more people in is for it to be free. So yeah, it's just a confusing decision. It's everything about it is perfect except for the fact that it's not free to play. It looks and like it just sounds perfect for me. I love these type of games. Oh yeah. So I'm really happy about everything. Just the fact that it's free to play, I'm like, sorry, that it's not free to play, I'm just so confused about, and it was set up perfectly for it. So unless they have like a battle royale, add-on to Hazard Zone that's planned for April next year or something, then I'll be like, okay, now I get it. But I just, I don't know. I really feel like they're missing out, and as a big fan of this franchise, that I think it needs, or it deserves to be in that conversation with Call of Duty and Apex and stuff in terms of being just as good as any of those games. I think Battlefield is just as good as those top games, but they're not allowing it to be at that level. Yeah. They're just not. They're not going to... It will never sell to that level because they're not doing the like following the trends that gaming is doing right now, because this is a, like you said, this is a, I don't know, 2010 decision where it's... They're just like, oh, well, the game costs $60. That's how gaming works. Well, it's not anymore. That's just not how it works anymore, because your base game can cost $60, but I don't want to say need, but it's very much in your best interest to have a free element to your game to get people in the door. If it's monetized well, they'll still spend their money. You'll still make the exact same amount of money, but you'll get more players, therefore more money. And yeah, I just don't know how they don't see that, to be honest.
Yep. Question for you, and it kind of came up a couple times. One of my biggest concerns around Hazard Zone, I love this type of mode. I love that it's smaller scale. I wish the maps were smaller and they weren't any bots, so it kind of puts you up against each other. But again, I understand the decision. I'm holding my criticism until I get to play it. But probably, other than the free-to-play aspect of things, something I do not have hope or trust in DICE doing is fully supporting this mode, because they're historically very bad about implementing this great mode and then not bringing any content, because these types of modes need a consistent support schedule. Otherwise, people are going to play it for 3 months and then they'll be like, okay, time to try something else, and maybe I'll go back to it later. But if they don't have that, I think it could get quite stale depending on how it's played. Again, that's just my concern. Do you share in this?
I guess it's kind of hard to tell just because we don't know how big the maps will be and all that kind of thing. So I kind of, in a way, need to wait till I've played it. But I think the fact that it's launching with 7 maps, when you consider most, I know it's not a battle royale, but when you consider most battle royale games, they have 1 map or maybe 2. And also the thing is, this technically isn't a battle royale like they keep saying, but it is. It's just a different type of battle royale. It's the same thing. They tried to market so hard against it not being that, but a battle royale is a game where you go into the game. It's kind of every man for themselves or every squad for themselves, and you have to survive and loot. That is literally just what a battle royale is. So it is kind of a battle royale. Anyway, I think the fact that it's got a lot of maps, and you know they will be adding. The good thing is that when a map gets added to All Out Warfare, it should, I assume, get added to Hazard Zone as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm not too worried about the content in terms of like maps and weapons and specialists. I do think that they'll need to do different modes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure.
Limited time something in terms of bringing people back in.
Like literally just do a little a weekend where it is a battle royale. Like
that'd be
like
so
Warzone.
fun.
Because then, that's the type of stuff they need to do. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't need to be exactly that, but just, you know what I mean? Like type of something where it's like, oh, this weekend it's not.
Or you have squads where it's
something else.
You don't have to have a limit on which specialist you can be. Like, or everyone's Boris, or everyone's like, they could really kind of lean into these limited time game mode stuff. But again, this is something that historically they've tried, but they haven't really succeeded in.
Yeah.
But I think this is the perfect mode to be like, you know what? We're going to have some fun with this one. We're going to try out different things. We're going to implement limited time modes, and we're going to try different things out because it isn't as big of a scale. It isn't as big of a kind of attractor to this game. But I don't think there's anybody that's going to be like, I was on the fence about Battlefield and then I saw Hazard Zone announced, so I'm going to buy Hazard Zone. I don't think that's the case. If it was free to play, it would be. But I think people are going to buy Battlefield for the large scale experiences. They're going to hop into Hazard Zone and they're going to get hooked, and maybe they'll jump around. Yeah,
I agree with that. I think obviously there will be some sales, but I don't think it's going to be like some drastic amount of players that are like, oh, I bought it just for Hazard Zone. Mm-hmm. I think that they definitely need to support it, but I honestly think it probably needs support less than All Out Warfare, to be honest. I think like these type of games, when they're really addictive and really like intense, like if you actually look at Warzone as the perfect example, that game still has the same map that it had at launch. Like it's got just one map, and then I guess there's Rebirth as well.
Yeah.
But they did the reskin of the map halfway through, but it's the same map. It just looks a bit different, and there's some like small changes. Mm-hmm. But people still love that game because of the addicting gameplay.
Yeah.
So I think Hazard Zone should be okay with like content if they nail that. Like really, if it's like that feeling that you get from Warzone and Apex, where it's just like really addicting. Mm-hmm. If it's not that addicting, then definitely think they need to keep it fresh with content. But I would actually argue that I think All Out Warfare probably needs the content more than Hazard Zone just on paper anyway. So, and the good thing is that, like I said, hopefully, I assume this is the case, that any map and specialist and stuff that gets added to the game, I assume is going to be added to Hazard Zone too. So if we get a map probably not per season, that's maybe too much, map every 2 seasons or something, by a year from now we might have 2 or 3 more maps and, you know, a bunch more specialists and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I think it should be okay content-wise. I just hope that they nail the gameplay aspect of it to where it gives you that addicted feeling. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because that's something like, I mean, let's say Firestorm was a good idea, and it would have been successful if they had supported that game. It's definitely a possibility. I mean, Call of Duty tried this, and if Call of Duty can't really pull it off, then who can really pull it off? But let's be in the little hypothetical world that the reason that Firestorm failed was that it didn't have the amount of support, which is definitely true. So maybe that's kind of what they're banking on, is like, okay, we know Firestorm didn't work very well, but I think it's because we didn't add anything to afterwards. So we're gonna give it a try one more time. Could be a thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I think with Firestorm it was the combination of not being free, and then that led to not many players playing it, and then that led to what's the point in supporting it? So I think again, back to the free to play argument. I think that for Hazard Zone, if they made it free and a lot of people were playing it, they'd see that and then they'd support it a lot. Whereas if it dies off early, for example, because it's not free, they may just go, oh, it's just not worth our time to do that. It was the same thing. I remember there was this whole discussion with Battlefront 2 where Galactic Assault wasn't getting content, and we were all like, why isn't it getting content? And they were like, oh, because everyone's playing Supremacy. And we were like, mate, we're playing Supremacy because you're giving maps to that mode. I don't like Supremacy, but I'm going to play the new maps.
Yeah.
Like, they think that it's all about like the current analytics, but where the content goes, generally that's where the people will go. So I do think that free or not, if they do add a lot of content to Hazard Zone, then definitely people will play it a lot. But I think it's definitely a two-way street, really.
I agree. It's that self-fulfilling prophecy of like, well, people aren't playing it, but if you supported it, people could play it. But we're not supporting it because people aren't playing it. So you just really have to just start. A question for you. Yeah. Where do you see Hazard Zone and Portal and All Out Warfare in this combination in the game? Do you think there's going to be one that's going to last longer? Do you think there's one that's going to be more popular? Where do you see those kind of, because it is almost like they have 3 different games inside of Battlefield 2042, honestly.
Yeah. It really is. Like, if they sold any of these to us as a single, like a standalone, like as Battlefield 6, they'd be exciting. Like, even All Out Warfare, which is the part I'm least excited about, that is just regular Battlefield. So if they sold that as Battlefield 6, I'd be buying that, right? And then there's Portal, which is bigger than that by a long way. If they sold that as Battlefield 6, I'd buy that. Then same with Hazard Zone. So it really is 3 different games in one game. I think Portal will definitely last the longest. I think Portal will be the next Battlefield 4 to where 10 years from now people are still playing Portal. Like, I genuinely, unless it's just bugged to hell, I do not see a possibility where that game is not super successful. Yeah. Because you can do whatever you want. So if you don't like All Out Warfare, but you like the gunplay, just make your own Conquest server and change what you want. And I think, for example, the whole thing with the specialists, that's really the only like true concern that I've seen from the community. Obviously, like bugs and stuff like that, but specialist system is like the talking point.
Yeah.
Go play Portal and just do the classes. It's fixed. That's already fixed. So it's like, I think Portal, I just don't see it failing. So I think that will definitely be the longest lasting of them. Then I would probably say Hazard Zone will be more played than All Out Warfare, just because, if people are going to play All Out Warfare, they're probably just going to play Portal. So I think poor little All Out Warfare, I'm not sure how it'll go, but I don't think it matters either because it's kind of the same thing in a way as Portal. Like, it's just, Portal is just that and other
I'm
stuff.
you, but better.
Yeah. So if they keep adding content to All Out Warfare, that's just benefiting Portal anyway. So I don't really see All Out Warfare failing either, just because it kind of is Portal in a way. So those two are kind of like hand in hand. And if Portal does well, I think All Out Warfare will do relatively well. But I think Hazard Zone will definitely be a little bit more, maybe, I don't know about more played, but probably a bit more. There'll be more hype around it anyway than All Out Warfare.
Yeah. So there's the double-edged sword with Portal. There's one that you're going to hop into a Portal mode and it's going to take a while for you to understand the mode in terms of what's going on, what rules have been changed. And then you're going to realize and make the decision, do I want to play this or do I want to play something else? And then you're going to go search again. It may turn into the Netflix side of things, but also there's the other part of things where people there's going to be genres that come out, and maybe you're going to say, hey, you know what? I really love the maps and the settings and the vehicles and the weapons of Battlefield 2042 All Out Warfare, but I hate the specialists, which I think is most of us, but that's a whole different topic we're going to talk about later. You turn them off. You can create this experience. Maybe my first thing is I'm going to remove the vehicles. I'm going to make Conquest, but it's going to be, the map's going to be smaller and it's going to be 128 players still. Like, that's what I really want to do, is have like this super wild all infantry kind of experience. So you're going to have, but you're also going to have people that's going to be like, I'm going to make a Battlefield 3 type game where I'm not playing around with any of the settings other than to change it to where it's like Battlefield 3. And I think those are going to be very popular. So it's going to be games within a games. It's honestly like Battlefield, like DICE has really shot themselves in the foot with this. Like, you gave everyone the choice, and now they are making that choice versus this whole experience. So like DICE is over there.
Yeah,
DICE is over there.
I kind
like,
of agree, but also I'm not sure if they shot themselves in the foot, because at the end of the day, we're all still playing Battlefield. So I don't know if they.
I just mean really in terms of
that much about that.
It may be poor in terms of their motivation to support the full experience. I don't know. We'll see. Because Ripple Effect is the studio that's behind Portal. But that's also kind of a deterrent for Portal, is they have announced, a year of content that they said. But after a year, what's going to happen? No one really knows. So maybe it's going to die down once the support ends. And then people are going to hop into All Out Warfare. People are going to hop into Hazard Zone. And then after kind of the next game has announced and they're working on it, Portal's going to resurge again. Again, like you said, though, it's not them shooting themselves in the foot, because you're going to buy the game to play Portal. It's not like you're not going to buy the game and still play Portal.
Yeah, I've heard that the same sort of thing with, and I actually was saying it initially until someone kind of pointed this out to me, that I was like, oh, Call of Duty's done kind of like killed their own game, because they released Warzone and now no one really cares about the actual game. And someone just said to me, it's still Call of Duty. Like, they're still making their money. They don't.
Yeah.
And we're still getting our Call of Duty fix. So I think like for the core Battlefield experience, that might take a bit of a hit. But if it's at the expense that like we get a better experience, I don't know if that really matters. I do think that, like, same with Call of Duty. I think the core Call of Duty and the core Battlefield experience, they do have a time limit on them. And I think in 10 years, like, Conquest just isn't the same as it used to be. It's not as exciting. I need something new. You know what I mean? So it's the same with Call of Duty. I used to love just the 6v6 modes, and now I just don't care. And it's a lot of people are feeling the same way. They need to try and like adapt and make some changes to both franchises. So Portal could be that, to where you can just do whatever you want. I think Warzone is Call of Duty's version, where they've now got this whole other game, and Portal could be that for Battlefield, where maybe Conquest and stuff, they're just not as exciting as they used to be, but here's this new mode that you can play, and it's just as fun, and it's arguably better because you can do what you want. And maybe that is the future of Battlefield. So it's going to be interesting to see. It's definitely it's definitely a weird situation where, like you said, they're making 2042, but we're almost not even excited for 2042. We're excited for Portal. Like, I'm not. There's no draw for me to play regular all-out warfare. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if I never actually touch all-out warfare once. Like, I'll just go play exact all-out warfare settings with the other 6 maps from the other 3 games. Like, there's actually no reason to play regular all-out warfare. So it is a weird situation for sure. That it's like you said, they in a way shot themselves in the foot for that mode, because there's actually no reason to actually play it at this point.
It's so interesting, their strategy for Battlefield 2042, because it's so fragmented, because there's so many different ways you could take it. You could really say all-out warfare is the biggest Battlefield experience ever, but I don't really like those big experiences. Well, we also have Hazard Zone. Okay, but I don't really like Hazard Zone. But wait, we also have Portal, where you can make whatever you want to. And they're like, okay, yeah. So it's like there's these 3 different levels. I'm very interested to see what the casual player who walks into like a GameStop or a Walmart and says, I want the new Battlefield. And they're like, which one? I don't know. The new Battlefield. Okay. What do they go to? Because I think Portal is too intense for the average player right off the
Yeah.
bat. I think it's going to be something
agree.
like it's going to start trending and people are going to see either shorts or they're going to see it on YouTube and be like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. Like they're going to see it in passing, but they aren't going to necessarily go into that intentionally. And then they're going to stumble upon it one day like, what is Portal? And they find out that one mode that this one guy has that he made is really, really fun, and they're going to keep on playing that. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, like, again, it's that weird situation where, because we're so in tune with the gaming community in general, we feel like everyone knows everything when, in reality, like, I've seen all over Twitter this week, people kind of like bringing up Portal again and saying about the whole specialist thing, and people are like, wait, what? You can do that? And I'm like, mate, did you miss the freaking trailer for that or something? Like, how do you not know that that's a thing? Like, that's why what you said is so true, that even people, like, if you have a Twitter account and you're following your favorite YouTubers and stuff, you're way more in tune with the community than 90% of the player base. So even those people who are on Twitter and they're following, Westy and all these guys, and he says something and they're like, wait, what, you can do that? If even they don't know about Portal, then the general play base, they won't probably touch it until they, like you said, they see on YouTube like this crazy mode and they go, oh, what the hell? I thought Portal was just like some random little thing.
Yeah.
Turns out it's the biggest part of the game. So it's a weird situation for sure, but it's going to be interesting to see, like you said, which, like, All Out Warfare might dominate in terms of the player base because of the general player base.
Yeah.
I kind of think that Portal will, but now that I think about it, maybe All Out Warfare will be way bigger because that's just the regular Battlefield experience. So very, very interested to see. This is like one of the weirdest launches of a game that I've ever been around. Like, it's just, there's so many things going on, and it's just like, it's interesting to watch.
It's definitely going to be a very memorable launch, one way or the other. It's going to be a blazing ball of fire, or it's going to be this shining glory. I don't think there's I don't think there's an in between there.
Nah, I don't either. I don't see it being a launch where it's like, it was all right. Like, I think it's either going to be a mess or it's going to be like, this is the best Battlefield game ever. Like, I just don't see a middle ground, really.
Yeah, and like there's this, we're in the period where it's like after the beta, where we have been able to think about our times, look back at the gameplay that we've had or other people have posted, and see what was capable. We're almost in this kind of like mourning experience where it's like, okay, we don't have Battlefield's beta anymore, but we can kind of we can look back on the life that Battlefield beta was for the 4 days that we had it, and see kind of what we loved, what we didn't like. And I think Specialist is one of those things that, again, all the fanboys are like, blah, 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 well, you just don't like change. It's like, no, just don't like this system. It's fine. It's okay. When there's this tweet going around, it's like, I don't like the sandbox. Well, here's a sandbox. Well, I don't like that. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever. I don't really care. Some people want different things about the game, and broadening it is not the way to do it. But I think overall the gameplay hook that Battlefield has, I think there is definitely some greatness there. It's going to be really fun. I'm interested to see what this. I'm still not convinced on the size of the maps. I don't think they have enough in the middle areas in terms of orbital. And also their obsession with playing the objective. It's like, yes, we understand playing the objective, but this is a first-person shooter, and the main thing that most people play first-person shooters for is to shoot things. Just I think
that is a good point. I do hope that they add a lot more, because, like, technically in All Out Warfare it is just conquest and breakthrough. I do hope that they add like TDM and stuff that the people who just want to go in and shoot their guns, they can do that, because like it definitely felt to me like, and partly because it's a beta, like no one, like I'm one of those players that really plays the objective. I didn't give it the first if I won a single game in the beta. I was just trying to get kills and have fun.
Jump in the tornado.
So maybe that, so maybe that was part of it, but it definitely felt like there wasn't that like teamwork element in the game. And so hopefully they just add, kind of like what they're doing with all three portions of the game. Hopefully they also do it for the modes where they have something for everyone, and the people who just want to go and, you know, get as many kills as they want, they can still have that experience. So
yeah,
they're kind of going that way with the overall modes, and hopefully they do that. Like, because 2 modes, as good as All Out Warfare does seem, like I'm excited for that, and Conquest and Breakthrough is really all I play anyway. It is only 2 modes, so that is a little bit disappointing, and I do hope that they add at least. You'd want to end up with like at least, I don't know, 6 or 7 modes. They don't have to be big.
Yeah,
they can just be,
or even if it's just fewer than that. Maybe you have the Battlefield portal side, you have the hazard zone, and then you have like 2 small scale maps or 2 small scale game modes, and then a medium sized game mode. Like, not everyone's. Maybe you have like the classic 64 v 64, but like there's a twist to it or something like that. Or maybe they're just under the guise that we don't need to add that because we have Battlefield Portal, and people, if they want to play that.
Yeah. That's a good point. I just, I after just saying about how people forgot about Portal, I just forgot about Portal as well. Because, you can just make TDM anyway. So
and they will have DICE curated playlists too. Like, I believe they've confirmed they're going to have modes that DICE has made. So maybe they have those kind of things, and those become the new team deathmatch, or those become the new gun game. I don't know.
I'd imagine they actually will have like Battlefield 3 team deathmatch, and
it'd be so nice.
Like team deathmatch with all of them, all the maps and stuff. So I reckon that I really hope that their selection of the servers they put up, because like you said, it is going to be people like us. I know we'll be sitting there in Portal figuring out all the kinks and trying to do that stuff, but not everyone wants to do that. Some people just want to find a fun server and join it. So I do hope that they have like a really good selection of not just like 5 different types of servers, like 2042 Conquest, and then every map Conquest. I hope they have like literally 20 different types of modes that you can play on their settings, and then that at least allows people to jump in without having to be like, I don't know what the hell is going on. I don't know how to make my own game mode and stuff, because it is a kind of daunting thing. Like, I'm kind of like nervous to try and figure that out as well. So hopefully they do provide that, and that would have fixed that issue with All Out Warfare. If there's no TDM there, then they can add that in Portal anyway. So
yeah, it's such a fascinating time to be a fan of Battlefield, and also to be not just a fan, but also kind of like a critic as well, to see these different things and to understand some of the history around Battlefield, and to look at it and say, you know what, this is an interesting idea, but I don't know if it's a good idea for Battlefield as a whole. I think that's something that we're all kind of realizing and understanding. Yeah,
for sure.
But I think with that, we kind of covered the gambit around Battlefield 2042 Hazard Zone. It's going to be super fun to watch and see how this goes. I did not expect to see it so early. I'm going to be honest with you.
Me too.
I thought we were going to see it the first week of November, honestly. I thought they were going to push it all the way out to that. But
my thoughts exactly. I thought it was going to sort of have this reveal trailer or whatever they were going to do on maybe that first week of November, because then that gives them a week from, say, the 5th until the 12th, when it, I guess, technically launches on the 12th. So that gives them a week to sort of just hype it up in that week. And then, I thought like maybe the very last week of October or the first week of November, that's when they would announce this. But it's good that it's kind of good and bad. It's good that they've told us this early, but now I'm worried there's going to be another dry patch where they just go silent for the next 3 weeks. So they really do need to just keep communicating, and I'm interested to see whether they do that. I think the last 2 weeks has been 10 out of 10. They've done so well with their communication. They even just like, I think they said this week or probably next week, I think they said they're doing the Battlefield briefing where they're going to tell us everything they learned from the beta and like what they've already fixed and stuff like that. That is exactly what we need to know. I don't need that every day. Just give us, even just them telling us they're going to do it next week. That's really good communication.
It is.
Hopefully they keep that up, because now with Hazard Zone, I almost kind of wish this was next week, because then it's like spreads it out a bit more. Now that there's this like technically a month really until the game launches, I'm just nervous it's going to be quiet. But at the end of the day, we already know everything we need to know, so it's not going to be the end of the world. But I do just hope that they keep us, in the loop, I guess.
Definitely. I hope so too, because like they could easily be like, okay, guys, we'll see you when the game launches. No, come back. Please. Yeah, I'm so pumped for that briefing as well to see what they've learned, because that'll give us a good idea in terms of what to kind of expect with the game. I hope they get a little more granular and say, I don't want to hear about the bugs. Like, obviously the big stuff I would like to hear about for sure, but I hope there is a lot more of those, like, okay, we heard about your concerns with the specialist system and we're making some adjustments, or we understand that McKay is the most powerful specialist and there's no other reason not to play McKay, so we're going to adjust the other specialist, or we have already adjusted the specialists because we saw how they were used and we just implemented that in the beta. I don't know. I think it's going to be fun to see.
I'm really looking forward to that, because that's honestly something I didn't expect them to do. Like, they don't really have any obligation to do that, really. So it's exciting that they're taking our feedback and then they're actually saying, like, okay, here's what we've learned, here's what we want to talk to you about, and hopefully they actually ask some more questions in that briefing, get some more feedback, and then in those dry weeks until launch, that's when they can sort of, maybe they ask, okay, we know you don't like the specialist system, give us some thoughts on it, and then in 2 weeks after that they go, okay, look, we may have found a new way to do the specialist system, or we're going to stick to our guns and do it this way, and here's why, blah blah blah. Like, hopefully they just keep up that communication. And like you said, I want to hear about some of the bugs, but for me, it's not the bugs, it's the core mechanics, because bugs can be fixed, but core mechanics are going to be a lot more of a struggle to fix, I guess. So that's the stuff from now till launch that I'm definitely the most interested in.
100% right there with you, man. It's going to be fun to see. But with that, thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Battlefield Show. It's one of the highlights of my week for sure, and it's great to hear all of the feedback and to see all of the different thoughts and discussion around Battlefield, and the good words that you guys have been saying as well on the podcast has been helpful as well. So again, thank you so much for listening to the show. You can find both of us on YouTube. Sammy is at SammyBoy. Uplink Podcast is myself. And you can find the show wherever you find podcasts on YouTube every Friday. So definitely stay tuned for more episodes and all the content that we've been producing as well. Thank you for listening, and we'd like to thank Ethan Clark for the awesome thumbnail. As always, we'll see you on the battlefield.